It's time to keep this train a rolling, folks. We are live right now on December 31st. Happy New Year's Eve to all who celebrate. And I just got to say, what an amazing day of collegiate sports so far. Kev, as the Hokie fan, we got to let you. There we go.
Man, this game, Hokies, UVA in Castle Coliseum. Right now, Hokies up by 6 in triple overtime. I thought we had it done at the end of second overtime. We're up by 5 with about 9 seconds left. Props to UVA. They hit a big three. We missed a free throw. They had an air ball tip in as time expired to send it to 3 overtimes. Fatigue seems to be setting in for both squads. UVA's had 2 people foul out now. They got a couple more with 4 fouls. That's just that's unrelated to this game, but
No, it
man,
is, but now that I realize it's still live, I got to put that on. I mean, if I can even, there it is. Okay. All right,
yeah.
yeah, I got to do what you're doing. 3 overtimes up. We're up by 7 with a minute
Ooh!
left.
All
Yeah.
right. I
Okay.
think,
All right. We got to talk some ball though, Kev.
yeah,
Um
it's time to talk some ball.
Okay, folks. Oregon, Texas Tech. We got the Ducks going to face the Red Riders. The Ducks kind of having a cakewalk last week, and I just realized I said Red Riders. I'm sorry, I'm tired, everybody. It's Red Raiders. We all know that. Come on now. Yeah, last week, JMU got destroyed by the Ducks, 51-34. The Dukes did keep it interesting. That's going to trip me up. But there was a lot of garbage time points that influenced that at the end there. I think it was all pretty clear that what was going to happen at that game. Texas Tech riding high after routing again the only team in the Big 12 that could have handled them all season. Kev, I'm going to hand it off to you to start us off.
Yeah, and so this matchup, I think, really comes down to Big 12 versus Big 10.
Yep.
Both conferences not playing a heavy non-conference slate actually have, of the 8 teams left in the college football playoffs, 3 teams, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and Indiana, did not play a single non-conference Power 4 opponent. Oregon played Oklahoma State, Montana State, and Oregon State. Georgia played Marshall, Austin Peay, Charlotte, then finally Georgia Tech. Shout out to Miami because they had Notre Dame, Florida, USF, and Grambling. So
Yeah.
I think if stats aside in this game, there's one thing that Texas Tech fans should be, should give them some confidence, even though they're a 2.5-point underdog. Was BYU going in and taking care of business in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the People's Championship against Georgia Tech. That's a Georgia Tech team that had Georgia on the ropes late.
Yep.
I think that. And I
Great
believe
game.
as we stand now, the Big 12 is like 6-1 in their bowl games. So
Yeah, I saw that. And, speaking on the Big Ten, we also got to give a quick shout out to, Iowa getting it done against Vanderbilt today. That was an insane game. I don't know if you saw any of that.
yep.
Probably not too much because you were focusing on basketball as you should be. But Kev, storyline I got for Oregon is they've been battling injuries going towards the tail end of this season. Seems like that's subsided. Now, one kind of weird take that I do have about those injuries, they did give them the opportunity to really flush out the play of Malik Benson, their guy who stepped up big time as the biggest wide receiver. He had, at the end of the season, 200-plus receiving games against Washington and JMU. Understood, maybe not the best measuring sticks about whether or not he's going to be able to be a contributor against a Texas Tech team whose piss is hot right now. Now let's talk a little bit more about like who else is coming back. We got Kenyon Sadiq and Decorian Moore who are fully healthy. They're practicing, and Lord knows those are some of Dante Moore's favorite guys to throw to. I want to go on a rant about Texas Tech to kind of finish this off, but do you got anything before I get into that?
Yeah, I'll give you a chance to catch your breath. So a couple notes jump out on the
I don't
page to
have
me.
that much
Texas
breath. Yeah.
Tech forces 2.5 turnovers per game. Now, that number is a little inflated because, Texas Tech is out in front in most of their games. So they're forcing a lot of interceptions. They also, I believe, they don't lead the nation in fumble recoveries, but they are close. With the Hokies just got the win.
10 points. 10-point dub. There
They're
we go. All right.
they're dancing in Blacksburg.
Dancing, baby.
Also, we are looking at the number 1 and the number 2 teams in the country in terms of first half points differential. So these are 2 teams that like to get out to a lead. 2 electric offenses. I'm honestly surprised the over-under's not a little higher. I think that's just
Yeah.
a credit to Texas Tech's defense. But again, it comes down to they've been shutting out opposing rushing attacks in the Big 12. You know, I
Right.
think it'll be interesting to see if Oregon can run the ball. I feel like if Oregon can get 120 yards on the ground, I feel like they might win this thing going away. But those are questions that will be answered noon Eastern time tomorrow. So
Yeah.
hopefully our viewers are not too hungover after tonight's festivities. But if you are, not a bad place to be nursing a hangover on the couch watching this game. Yeah.
Absolutely right, Kev. One thing I got to know, I don't know if you saw, Dan Lanning made some headlines recently because he's really going after the scheduling of the playoffs and how it's being like just so dragged on at the end of the season here and how it's really kind of screwing over the transfer portal. A lot of people agreeing with him, and I got to say, I agree too. There's, I think, going to be some restructuring next year. I don't think we're quite at the point of a 16-team playoffs, even though we're going to get there. We'll see, but he brings up a lot of points. Now, we can't talk about Texas Tech without talking about their monster defensive edge rusher and Mr. Jacob Rodriguez, the dude who got a lot of Heisman nods.
The mustache man himself.
Oh yeah, mustache man with a badass wife who is a Black Hawk Army helicopter pilot. God, that's so cool. But look, I spent some time today and I went back and watched some highlights about or on Jacob Rodriguez, and I noticed 2 things. One, he's very patient when he goes up to the line and when it comes to making sure that he has the right guy with the ball with play action. He keeps his head on a swivel. Very much a good game time decision-making instincts that he's got. Second, he's versatile. He can go after you if you're running up the gut and stop you dead in your tracks, or he can be providing some coverage at the in the seam, like in the midfield, so to speak. Now, I kind of went back then and watched some Dante Moore highlights because I wanted to refresh myself. The 2 things I do see, a lot of his targets this season that are the best throws are when the pocket is collapsing and he has a person who is completely wide open. So if I'm Texas Tech, what I'm thinking to myself is, I want to encourage Rodriguez to be patient. I want to encourage him to maybe not force Dante Moore to collapse, because it's when they sacrifice that guy in the midfield and they make the pocket collapse that Dante Moore is able to scramble and get away from people and find that one man who you have sacrificed coverage on. So that's where they're, I think, going to have to rely on Jacob Rodriguez to maybe hold back, not be as aggressive as a blitzer, take care of the midfield, and let Oregon's and let Texas Tech's D-line speak for itself. Okay. What else did I have? Oh, yeah. Okay. I've talked a lot. Oh, I'm refusing to bring up any stats from last week, by the way, for Oregon to use as any kind of barometer just because it was JMU. Look, credit to JMU for getting there. And I was out watching the game in Arlington, Virginia with Jared. There was a lot of people hyped up for it. But yeah, I had the vibe the whole time that they even knew they weren't supposed to be there. So that's what it is. Last time these 2 teams played, it was a shootout it was a shootout in 2023 where Oregon took the lead 38-30. Okay. One thing that I saw from an article was where we call this the matchup of the new money programs, which I really like. That's a cool statement to look. Look, we got 2 programs here that in the 21st century have used a lot of donor money. And I'm talking to oil money guys and I'm talking to the Nike guy who have really just reinvented what it means to play at both of these programs. And that's just, here it is. They're both in the playoffs, ranked number 5 and number 4 in the country. It's awesome to see. I talked about Tech's defense versus Oregon's offense. Now, let me flip the script here. Texas Tech's offense, completion percentage, they're ranked number 32. Yards per pass, they're ranked number 27. Passes per game, they're ranked 23. Oregon's passing defense, opponent completion percentage, they're ranked number 2. Opponent yards per pass, they're ranked number 3. And opponent pass yards per game, they're also ranked number 3. So there's a big mismatch right there. I think Beren Morton is going to have a tough time with these Oregon fellas having coverage on all those guys that he likes to throw to. And I got to be honest with you, Kev, outside of Caleb Douglas, I don't really know who's going to be a breakout player for him to throw to. So that being said, do you have any other picks statements before we get to the picks?
Yeah, I'm looking for Reggie Virgil to have another big performance coming off 8 receptions for 86 yards against BYU. He might be that number 2 guy if Douglas gets locked down. Like he did, BYU held him to just 1 reception. I think if you're Texas Tech, you're looking at the tape from the Oregon-USC game. Yes, Oregon, their offense was able to overcome the 27 points from USC, but that was a good passing attack, some talented wide receivers. They had some success. So this is one that really in my head, and you can go ahead and reveal my pick, because when I first saw this, I thought Texas Tech for sure. But yeah, the more you like look into it, the more you think, I don't know. It comes down to when these conferences are siloed in, like the Big 12 and Big 10 were this year. It's hard to, and the SEC too. I mean, the SEC, they're showing in these bowl games there. Maybe it doesn't mean all that much more for them. But yeah, I see you took Oregon. What's your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I'm just noting back to, I think, they're evenly matched when it comes to the defense for Texas Tech, especially because, they got one of the greatest defensive players of the year going up against a healthy Oregon offense. But then I just think there's a mismatch also when you look at the defensive passing coverage. And I think that it's just going to give Beren Morton too much of a struggle through the game. It also comes down to the rest disadvantages is what I'm looking at. I think that Dan Lanning is going to come out red hot in this. If I was going to take an over under, I didn't officially take one here. I would take the under though. That seems like the better pick. Big time.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, folks. Well, we're going to move on to the next games, folks. But if you're just watching for the Oregon and Texas Tech game, remember to like and subscribe and to start tuning in the new year when we start getting into our coverage of college basketball. All right. Thank y'all so much.